Greetings, wrestling fans, and welcome to Squared Circle Society. I'm Flesh Wound Dan, joined by Producer Todd.
Good evening.
So, how are you doing tonight, Producer Todd?
All right, chilling, ready to talk some. Well, I don't know if it's the happiest, but
I was gonna say the most, arguably, but for me, probably the most heartbreaking episode of Dark Side of the Ring yet. Our first one, anyways. I feel like maybe when they're putting together the episode order, they were like, let's go out on a positive note or a somewhat positive note, considering because yeah, this one's a soul crusher, and we'll get right into it. Dark Side of the Ring, season 6, episode 9, the Scream Queen Daphne. So before we get into the episode, just a little bit about us and Daphne, how you discovered her. I mean, obviously, I'm assuming in her case, it would have been through WCW, but she was out there. She was an actual actress. She was in Santa Claus, the movie, in 1985, which is so cool. And people forget that. She came into WCW as a professional actress with gigs under her belt. So, and I think it showed, because I loved Daphne. I was the guy that loved Daphne more than Lita at a time when
Lita was an ugly scant. Oh, sorry, we're not even 3 minutes in.
Yeah.
I'll save my comment for 10 more seconds. Never been a fan of Miss Congeniality, Lita, whatever her.
You liked Miss Congeniality, I bet.
No, she was the scant. No, I'm not a scant guy, and she was skanky. I know you're a scant guy, Dan. You've always been. You like them dirty West Virginia skanks. Don't act like I'm talking crazy, Dan. Don't give me that face, because you know.
Damn. I
waited until 3 minutes.
A lady, sir. No, I just think, like, for me, you could see how special she was the second those vignettes started airing, the obsessive fan stuff with David Flair, which was just it's like, holy shit, this girl's great. And she coming in as an actress, you know, we're in that era where there were a lot of models that never exactly truly became wrestlers. And Daphne did. Daphne was good. Daphne meant so much to those early days of Shimmer, TNA, which we'll get into, I think, a lot in this episode.
But I mean, she came from a gymnastic athletic background, so that makes sense why it was really easy for her to transition and to learn, like teaching her spots and stuff, and it all I mean, she was perfect for it. And when she caught that bug, she went all in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many for a career that, at least in the mainstream, didn't last all that long, in the big companies, she made such an impression. I mean, she made the Crowbar David Flair act work, got it over huge, David Flair, he was what he was. He wasn't exactly a
he was getting over without Daphne. I mean, Crowbar, yeah, but there was no way Flair without. It was the perfect storm.
Oh yeah, she gave David Flair something of a career. Never, was going to live up to his dad, but she did. She gave him
still my favorite Flair child worker.
Wow, that bad.
I do not like Charlotte. We've had this discussion.
Charlotte can go in the ring, though. You can't deny.
I didn't say anything about her in-ring ability, but sometimes it's more than that. And I
get it. There's Charlotte fatigue. I get it.
But it's not fatigue. I've been tired of her since I first saw her.
Damn. Yes, I hate all this.
I guess I'm in a mood tonight because I'm not holding back.
What if she started doing a version of the helicopter with like a dildo or something?
That's just gross, Dan.
Yeah, Todd. Come on, Todd. You would immediately buy the t-shirt.
No, that's just gross.
Do you think that happens? Do you think she's like in the back doing like all the Ric Flair stuff?
No, I don't think she's doing any of it, Dan.
She doesn't walk out of the bathroom on the plane just spinning that dildo.
No.
Flies out, hits Shayna Baszler in the face, and we got a brawl.
And just go on. Move along.
Anyways, I blame you for this this distraction time.
I don't know what you're talking about, Dan. You're talking about dildos and Charlotte Flair. What the fuck does that have to do with Daphne, the performer who came in and literally changed the industry of the fucking Barbie doll Pamela Anderson look, but yet you're focusing on Charlotte Flair instead of putting over how great Daphne was?
I'm getting there.
And Game Changer? Come on, Dan.
I was a huge Daphne fan. This episode going in, I did dread it because I knew it was sad. I wish I never watched that video, which, we'll dance around tonight, but the wording, but her final moments, I wish I never watched that. I thought it was sad as shit. And you do get that impression that if somebody were just there in that moment, I think they could have talked her down, but unfortunately that's not the case. But let's start from the beginning of the episode. So they run down the obsessive fan gimmick and running her first run in, I believe, to save David Flair against DDP. You already knew there was something there. Like, there was something captivating about her in those early vignettes. I didn't know a ton of stuff about her family and her family life and everything. Her military brat background. Her brother is heavily featured in the episode. And they talk a little bit about those early movie gigs that she had in Santa Claus from 1985. And they run it down. Very nice family. She wasn't somebody, I think, that came from like darkness early on or anything like that. Where, unfortunately, a lot of these episodes, Jake Roberts in particular, you can see how he was probably fucked from the beginning.
Phrasing.
Oh, sorry. You know what I mean. But Grizzly Smith was a monster, and Daphne luckily had a good family. A lot of the, unfortunately, things go wrong later, but
I don't think Jake's a good comparison. I think China's a better comparison. Like, Jake is a totally different path. China's a lot more comparable. There's a lot more parallels, even to the last video with these two.
Yeah, that is true. I hadn't thought of that, but there are definitely parallels. I mean, China certainly succeeded at a higher level in terms of money and everything. But yeah, no, there definitely is.
And she hit lower lows too. If we're being real.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Daphne, I know towards the end was doing like the OnlyFans thing. I don't know to what extent, but so I mean, yeah, there is close parallels. China just, was more famous overall, and well, quite frankly, was on the winning team at the time. But that's not to take anything away from Daphne, because I always point out WCW, I mourned it even after it went under. For all the bad shit, and those last couple years in particular, there was an overwhelming amount of bad shit. You had those bright spots, and Daphne, Crowbar, and David Flair, when they were all together, that was a bright spot. It worked. I looked forward to seeing them on my television. And, even when they gave them, maybe not the best material or didn't always pay it off like they could have, I really enjoyed that run.
They did the most. Well, she definitely did more than most would have done with what they were given.
Oh, absolutely. She was only scheduled for 2 appearances originally.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't supposed to be like a regular gig. She just was so good that she turned it into that. Yeah. And as we kind of get beyond her early moments, Lexi Fife, the indie wrestler who, if you don't know her, I mean, it's a shame because she was somebody, I want to say she recently retired, but I'm not 100% sure. She may still be active. But she was Hillary Clinton in that match against Barack Obama that they did on Raw, I believe.
Oh.
Yes. And I believe
Then why didn't they have Sarah Palin for her? They could have
I
her
I was gonna say, I was gonna say they could have had that on TV, but she was Daphne's one of, if not her best friend, uh, for many years, up until the end of her life, and she's heavily featured. There is a moment, skipping ahead a little bit, where like I almost had to pause it because it was so sad. I guess Daphne had more or less texted and what was going to happen. And, I'm going to have to break my promise, I think was the wording. I
Yeah.
was like, holy shit, this is peak sadness. And I thought the Canyon episode was really sad. The Canyon episode, maybe for the first time in my life, made me not like Ric Flair a little bit. Even though maybe in that case, I get it. But
There's plenty of reasons to not like Ric Flair as a person versus an in-ring performer.
this is true. This is true.
Because there's a lot of scumbaggy stories out there, but wrestling fans don't like to admit that.
Oh, of course, and Tony Khan as well. Sanctimonious son of a bitch. But this is, in my opinion, the toughest one because it just felt like, again, just a series of unfortunate events, and it could have all been avoided. They talk about WWE buying WCW, and Daphne did have a development deal that carried over for a short time, but that comes to an end relatively fast. And they talk about the deep depression that she went into. She had a 9-month run in developmental, I believe, and was trying to get that job back to earn it back. And she was going through a divorce. Her issues with depression and medication, bipolar disorder, all get worse and worse and worse. And but that she does rally again during this time. She really ups her wrestling skills. And if you're unfamiliar with Shimmer, I always say, like, the women's revolution that didn't start in WWE. That really, I mean, I guess if you really want to look at it as the course of history, it starts many years or decades earlier. But where it really started in the modern era was a mixture between the Knockouts and, in particular, Shimmer.
I think Knockouts brought it to mainstream eyes.
Yeah.
Where Shimmer was still, that was a tape trading era. It was a lot, it was a lot harder to see it, but it was easy to order the TNA pay-per-view or watch TNA on TV. So I know Shimmer deserves some credit, but I mean, TNA is really what, for TV, put it on the map, I have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely had got the mainstream, but Shimmer kind of, what they proved is, holy shit, we can have a woman's show that centers on just wrestling and storylines too, but I mean, and it works. Like, we have enough talent now. We have the cheerleader Melissas, we have the Sarah Del Rey's, Natty was a part of some of those early shows. I mean, Shimmer was something special, and she was a big part of that early run. I mean, they went hard. And Taylor Wilde, who wow, should she have had a bigger career, but she decided to do other things away from wrestling. Talks about meeting her there in Shimmer in 2005 and how much that company, that offshoot, meant to everybody. If you get a chance, go back and watch some Shimmer footage, and shout out Orc in the chat. So they go into Caleb Conley, a wrestler who dated her, another guy I feel bad for. You could tell he still loves her. He talks a little bit about her and some of the weight gain and everything that she struggled with. She does get signed by TNA, who obviously I'm a huge fan of that era. I mean, we had Awesome Kong, Tara, aka Victoria. We had, just, they were doing amazing things in ring that I'm sure, even though it took a certain amount of years, WWE was looking at thinking, well, fuck. These ladies make money. Beautiful people were doing bigger numbers in their segments than the main event guys. Maybe not the best example as far as the in-ring, but nonetheless, it's like everybody was just bringing their A game. And Daphne comes in as the governor, Sarah Palin angle, which, look, TNA did a lot of dumb shit at the time too, but I thought it was actually entertaining. And the way they told that story, that she had just gone off the deep end and Dr. Stevie had to bring her back, which I was a little surprised we didn't have Stevie Richards on this episode. But I know outside of the podcasting, he's not as active in some of this sort of stuff. I thought they had lived together at one point. I thought they had dated, but maybe I'm wrong. And they didn't talk about that at all, which I thought was strange. But the Dr. Stevie, Daphne, Zombie Hot run was just awesome. It felt like, again, the beginnings of like, she's finally getting her due and people are seeing how awesome she was. Unfortunately, we all lead up to the Monsters Ball incident where Mick Foley taking on Abyss and Daphne not being too comfortable with this choke slam through the barbed wire table spot that she was doing, and she landed on her head, broke her arm and got a really bad concussion, had no memory of where she was or what happened. And one of our listeners, JG Michael, had pointed out, and they don't really I don't think they reference it in the episode, but Mick Foley is the one that kind of suggested she take the bump.
It is in the episode, but it's briefly glossed over.
Yeah, he said it could be her Hell in a Cell moment, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have any blame on Foley for that. I do think when a wrestler, when they show hesitation at doing a spot,
don't do it.
Don't do it. Like, because I think most of the time, 95% of the time,
if it's being pitched to them, if they're pitching it and they're kind of like, you're going to be nervous on a big spot anyway, but like the other way, that Foley should have known better.
Yeah. It just felt like, it didn't have to happen. I remember watching it live and thinking like, oh, holy shit, that was awesome. But yeah, I think she had so much to offer. And usually wrestlers, if you pitch something to them, whether they're comfortable or not, they're just going to say yes. And she was a little bit hesitant, and they shouldn't have done it.
I don't know how many wrestlers you've pitched to, Dan, but if it's not their idea, it's not that easy.
Yeah. I guess I would say more specifically like younger guys when you're training. It's like, you're not going to say no if they ask you to do a shooting star press through a fucking bundle of light tubes. There's no way you can do it, but you're going to try anyway. So yeah, sometimes you got to save them from themselves. And I don't know. I don't think there's a scandal here necessarily. I mean, at the end of the day, she did it, it just,
But Foley pushed her into it.
Yeah.
Let's just be real. Let's not try to protect Foley and
no. It happened and it sucked.
She went through XPW with 0 injuries. Just saying. Which I knew they were going to bring it up, but she did have that XPW run as Lucy with Vicious Vic Grimes around the time of Freefall.
This is true. Yes. I wasn't necessarily expecting that.
There was nothing of note that happened. I'm just throwing that out there for our XPW fans. Didn't meet her in XPW till later, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So she does this, gets obviously fucked up horribly. Returns, I believe, just a few months later, if that, and she was told, like, you really shouldn't wrestle again. Once again, there's a lot of people that are told that and go on to wrestle 20, 30 more years. I mean, we all know those people. But they put her in the ring at the time with Rosie Lotta Love.
Oh yeah,
another gimmick who was super, super green. People say stuff about Nia Jax, but like,
no, you say stuff about Nia Jax, y'all.
Not anymore.
Oh, now that you understand, took you this long. God damn it.
Well, I think it was very true before, but
Rose, you were just looking at it wrong.
Well, whatever. Rosie Lotta Love though was like, she needed more training. She shouldn't have been in the position that they were putting her in. And Daffney gets another concussion and just crushes her sternum. And, this is her coming back when arguably she shouldn't have, and she certainly did way too fast. And there you go again. And on top of her non-wrestling disorder and all these injuries, these head traumas, sadly, we're building towards a very, dark and sad end.
Bipolar alone is difficult enough, but you added the additional head trauma.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, we're talking like one of basically the worst thing that could happen, just about, and just boom, boom. And on top of all the other, I'm sure obviously had other concussions. And I thought it was interesting, the lawsuit with TNA, which there were a couple around this time. I mean, Shark Boy was another one who I do believe actually got paid, if I recall.
What was Shark Boy's lawsuit? I don't remember that one.
It was Shark Boy against, well, it wasn't against TNA. That Shark Boy was that movie, Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Like, there were a couple highly publicized lawsuits.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. I remember when he was suing Robert Rodriguez.
I believe TNA was involved in that. I don't remember all the details, but she had her lawsuit, and they weren't covering her medical bills, which was bullshit. I mean, Jesse Sorensen at the same time, who got paralyzed for a while temporarily, and they weren't taking care of him. But she gets a settlement. They don't really say what money it was, but like, one of the things, I guess they gave her action figures to sign at convention, and it's like that. I don't know. I'm sure she made a little bit of money.
No, she definitely made money off that. But the way they made it sound was that was the settlement.
No, there was money on top.
Well, the way they worded, because that's what I got at first, but then the way they worded it was like, oh, here, you get the action figures, you can sell them yourself and get your money.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping even 1,000 action figures, which you're not going to sell all in one swoop, that ain't covering your medical bills. But the impression that I get was that the money side of it was low. A lot of times you'll get these things and it's like, okay, I'm good for 6 months, maybe. It doesn't really help the underlying issue that happened. Deep depression at this point, that just gets worse. She keeps working, but finally decides to call the in-ring side of it. It quits. Now, this isn't the end of her legacy. She works behind the scenes for Shine in Florida. She does conventions, online stuff, and some charity stuff with other workers that suffer from bipolar disorder. Very sweet lady. I mean, you could see it if you ever got to meet her anywhere. She was a sweetheart. She was always had a smile, always, funny, engaging, one of the good ones. She really was. She does self-medicate for a while, has some DUIs, car accidents, which I'm sure also contributed to things, and gets darker and darker and darker. And unfortunately, the meds that she was on were making her gain weight, and it's tough. I mean, when you're on TV like that and then somebody sees you, she was still fucking beautiful.
I was gonna say, no complaints from me.
Yeah, still fucking beautiful, but she had gained weight. She didn't look like Daphne in WCW, and there was some shitty internet stuff with that. And much like Scott Hall, another comparison, I think Lockdown, that isolated her even more because there's no conventions, there's nothing to look forward to on the weekend, and that made it even worse. I mean, that's what happened to Scott Hall. Scott Hall was doing extraordinarily well. I saw Scott Hall. Uh, he fucking almost looked like old school Razor Ramon, just a slightly grayer version. Like, he was in great shape. But Lockdown got her. And sadly, that all leads to the infamous Instagram Live where she, is essentially served as her note for her final words. And that part was really hard because I guess they were aware that she had these tendencies. She texts Lexi Fife, which I can't even imagine the horror in that moment. I'm sorry, I'm going to break my promise. And her voice, some of the other guys that tried to get to her. I remember Austin Aries was one, and he wasn't in this episode, but he was one that I remember when she had posted that. Like, he was one that was like, let's get to her apartment. Does anybody know where she is? Let's, and unfortunately we know how it all ended. And that's where this episode gets really rough. Because they try and end on a positive note. They talk about Daphne at one point helping this fan, Vicky Lyons, who suffered a really bad injury.
Which Foley found on was it a Forensic Files episode?
I don't remember the full story. I know she got run over by a car and she, had a lot of health issues. And Daphne had a YouTube match with her where she put her over. Yeah. She trained for a long time, apparently, basically just had the one match. And Daphne did that for her. Yeah. So it really ends on a high note. What an awesome person that she was. Very sad. I mean, again, this is not an easy episode to watch. Dark Side of the Ring, sometimes it's like, I don't feel bad for this person. Grizzly Smith, I have not an ounce of sympathy for Grizzly Smith. He was a piece of shit. But you look at Daphne and it's like, fuck, dude. It just felt so avoidable. And I wish things went a different way for her, but she left a hell of a legacy. She really did. And I think that go back and watch some of her TNA stuff, watch the Shimmer stuff. Honestly, there's no period in ring or as a character where it wasn't working for her. And not a lot of people can say that. She was always a star. She was always, making her segments or her matches work. She got everything over. She was fantastic. So.
She was on the very last California XPW show before it closed the first time, or before there was jail time involved for Rob. But very last. I remember that show's still never been released, but there's footage of it out.
She would have had a home in XPW for sure.
I loved the pairing with Grimes and the spots they did. Mm-hmm. She never got a one-on-one match in XPW, but
no, she would have. But yeah. Because
she did a lot of the East Coast stuff. So because I didn't meet her till years later, and I only met her twice. And the first one, they used to do when I worked for AWS. They used to do shows like over the weekend. There was it wasn't Shimmer, but it was another all women's promotion. And I can't think of what it was. Probably about 10 years ago. It was around at its height. But I can't remember what it was. So I know that was the first time because she was there for that weekend of shows. And I was before, I think, the medication and she put on. She wasn't in Daphne size, but the last time I met her was not long before the lockdown. It was the last AWS show before they
Mhm.
they went away or went on hiatus. And yeah, I got to talk to her for a while at that show at the bar because the bar was like
Yeah.
all there. But yeah, I mean, you could feel the sadness, but it was still Daphne, so I didn't care.
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't know her or anything, but when I met her at any indie show and I saw her at several things, like she was just awesome. I mean, she went that extra mile to make your experience good, and yeah, so
Yeah, the first time I met her, I had her sign the XPW flag with Lucy. I had to have it signed as Lucy. Yeah, it was funny because it was next to Francine, and I was like, "Yeah, you gotta worry about it."
Did she have any like stories about X? I mean, obviously that was a short run, but did she have any stories about
She didn't really much. She just said she had fun there. I there wasn't, and honestly, I couldn't think of anything specific. Like I asked about the grime stuff, but yeah, no.
Well, yeah. In closing, before we get to our next episode, Daphne was a gem, and go out, watch some of her stuff that you may have missed. All right, so next episode, very different kind of episode, because it's refreshing every once in a while for it to be a dark side of the ring that doesn't center on the person passing away.
No, there's
And
other. Yeah, this is dark in a different way. It's not all tragedy.
no, it's not. It's not. And this is the season 6, episode 10.
JG just missed the spot, but we did put over the.
We did. We talked about it at the beginning. Or yeah. So see, and what up, JG? Season 6, episode 10, Becoming Muhammad Hassan. So I've talked about this. Like I paid very close attention to developmental because I got to go to some OVW shows and a Deep South show, and like I got to see a lot of this because I was just always traveling, and we kind of forget that Muhammad Hassan was Mark Magnus, and he was Italian and from Syracuse. He was not of Arab descent at all. And really, when you look at it, Mark Magnus, kind of typical cocky, heel. I think kind of, if I recall, like kind of a ladies' man kind of thing, not anything particularly original. But
He
you
could have
look
been
at
stuck as Sal Sincere's brother. Oh,
something like that. But honestly, when you look at it, even though he didn't have a lot of he was super green, you could still see a superstar. Like Mark Magnus could have gotten called up, and who the hell knows? Mark Magnus would have had a longer run. Now, would he have gotten to the near top like Muhammad Hassan did? I don't know.
He needed a gimmick change no matter what, because his Mark would have been in the middle of the card at the maximum.
Some people said that about John Cena as the prototype. Like it wasn't an immediate.
Yeah, as the prototype. And that statement is still correct.
Yeah.
Just like my statement. Now, giving him the right gimmick that's not Muhammad Hassan, is there a possibility? Yes. As the gimmick he was before Muhammad Hassan, that's a mid-card max gimmick.
Yeah, I think though he could have risen as Mark Magnus and just shifted
by changing the gimmick. Yes, I agree.
I think you can get to the top
because you look at John
being
Cena.
An arrogant like womanizer.
Yeah,
that's not a stupid gimmick. I mean, I'm not saying like Val Venus like wiggling your hips all the time.
Yeah, but you think some of those fucking that one NXT fucking Ricky Starks is going to go somewhere, and I think you're fucking dumb for that, but whatever.
LA Knight has done quite well, Todd. So
yeah, how's he doing? I hope he's released next.
I hope he wins Money in the
He's
Bank.
old.
You up.
He's probably overpaid. Time to let him go. Bring back R-Truth instead.
I don't think it's happening with LA Knight though, but we'll see. So they talk a little bit about this. They don't waste too much time on this episode getting into the gimmick, because there's not a lot to be said leading up to what we know him as. And he gets a call, or not him, actually, it's Jim Cornette who gets a call that they wanted to make him an Arab heel. And Cornette's reaction was the same. He's like, Mark Copani, the Italian guy? Like, you want, and this is only a few years, if that, removed from 9/11. So obviously, it's going to get massive heat. This is not the first time, that we've had.
This is a time-honored tradition.
It is, absolutely. From the beginning of wrestling in the carnivals, like, you always had the foreign heel.
Hell, XPW did with Mega Butcher not that long ago. It always works.
It does. I mean, more or less, it always works. And you know what? Society's a little different, but I think if you debuted a Muhammad Hassan now, he'd still get booed. I'm not in that mindset.
That's going to go city by city, though, too. Because some people, I think it's one of those things where
I don't think he gets cheered.
No, but I think it's going to be, the chants are going to be more racist in different areas. I'll just say it like that.
Sure, absolutely. But I've heard some people say, like, and I think Mark Copani's talked about it in shoot interviews, like he'd be a baby face now. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't. I don't buy that at all. I think it would be very close to the same reaction, but they'd probably cave faster to the. Well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself.
The sponsors would have been a whole different.
Probably
he was at the time where people still didn't give as much of a shit.
Yes. So he gets that call. Obviously, his reaction is kind of the same. Like, I'm Italian, but okay, I'm not going to say no.
Not to call it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If they want to bring you in as the ballerina, you're going in as the ballerina. Like, there's just nothing around it. He gets paired with Sean Davari, who is of Arab descent and spoke Farsi, so that was an easy pairing. They cut these promos, these pre-debut vignettes, the angry Muslim American promos, which initially, I guess you could say, not full-on heel segments.
No, they were heel segments, but it was done the right way, where the heel believes what he's saying, and in his mind, he's right.
Yes.
And I loved that because it was pissing people off, and that's what wrestling needs to not be afraid of now. This one kind of backfired in the end, but at the beginning, the gimmick was perfect. It made sense, and it pushed buttons, and they just kind of, we'll get to when they lean into it too hard, but I was a fan at the beginning. I was still a fan because I like pissing people off, and that's what it was doing.
I agree too. Like, I'll go for, even if it is maybe a little insensitive, like, I'll still go for it because it's wrestling. It's not high art. But I forgot about, like, some of the comments. I think it was on Heat and Ivory and Todd Grisham, and he's talking about traveling to whatever the next show was, and he was going to be there, and she was like, I hope you're not flying. It was like,
Vince was busting his ass on the headset too. But but I get it what they're saying. That kind of like derails what they're. It's kind of the racism is just cool then. Cool as in allowed. I don't mean cool like, hey. I mean, no one gave a shit.
Yeah, no. Well, you know what's funny though? I do remember a lot of backlash even at the very beginning, because at this point, like, obviously the internet is a thing. It's not what it is now, where wrestlers are responding directly to tweets, but people were fucking pissed, and for a guy that didn't even last
the problem with that is they're supposed to be getting pissed. He's a heel. That's what he's supposed to do.
Absolutely. And
It's
that's
generate
society.
emotions.
It's society at the time. If that works, you know, you go for it. I mean, it's like people that try and look at movies made in the 70s or 80s and judge them. I'm like, well, that's society at the time. It's just true. You know, not everything should be nice or politically correct. I mean, we'd only have, you know, shitty Disney movies if that was the case. So they run down some of the signs and everything that you'd see that would absolutely be confiscated now. Snitsky's featured on this episode, and he talks about just the nuclear heat that he had. I mean, again, you rarely see that nowadays. You know, a good heel, you know, usually you're still getting cheered at times. You know, even somebody like MJF, who I think is very good, but a lot of times he's getting cheered. I like that heel that, I mean, Dominic's starting to lose it a little bit, to be honest, where it's like you just don't fucking like him. And
but there is a point for everyone where there's the turn happens and you can't fight it. Dominic's approaching that.
He is, yeah.
But they could still shut it down. But I think they know there's more money turning him, just like Eddie. At a certain point, you got to go with it. But here another problem. Like, okay, the smart fans are the dumbest fans there are. Sorry, all you smart fans right now. Because why are you like, okay, MGM's supposed to be like a heel. Why are you cheering him? Like you're in on the whole process. So why aren't you booing it? Like,
yeah,
I don't get, like you're showing you're smart. I'm smart. I like him, so I'm going to cheer him.
I'm entertained by him for sure. But yeah, if I'm at a show, it's going to be "you suck dicks" chants or something.
Yeah,
like,
I don't get the smarts.
Yeah, I don't either.
Go along with the program. I mean, that's if you're in on it, you're in on what's going on. Then why aren't you in on it? Why are you going against the program? Makes absolutely no sense to me.
Unless you don't like what he's doing and you just want to blow it up, I guess there's that. But
then you'd boo him and you wouldn't cheer him. So yeah, I know it doesn't. Yeah. I don't get that mentality.
It doesn't make sense.
But I'm old school.
It's, you know, same guys that chant "this is awesome" to
at every fucking thing. Like I don't need to hear that every I have never once in my life chanted "this is awesome" at a wrestling show. And in fact, I would do whatever I could to make that chant cease and do a different chant.
Is that where "show your butthole" came from? But yeah, no, this episode does a good job of running down the history of these types of heels, and I mean, really, I guess not that long at the time, but the Hogan Sergeant Slaughter botch, and why that didn't exactly work at the time, and see, Muhammad Hassan, he would have continued working, and he would have continued working as a heel.
Were they going to have him win it in Madison Square Garden? Because that would have been the ultimate FU.
Well, he was supposed to get that belt, and I know
he was. That's what I'm saying. Was it going to be in the Garden? That would have been insane.
It was in DC. They talked about it.
That's right. The Garden would have been better, in my opinion, but that's just.
It was Batista, I believe, at the time, and he was going to win the title in Washington, D.C. And that would have been huge. And they should have. Well, it's hard to say should have, because, like, what are you going to do when sponsors are just dropping left and right?
Well, you know, we haven't even got to the gimmick change yet, so we're kind of jumping ahead.
We're jumping ahead a little bit, but the Slaughter Hogan thing, they talk about it not working because the Gulf War was raging and people just weren't in the mood for it. And I think also that one of the issues was always, I just didn't buy the Sergeant Slaughter turning heel thing. I think I liked it when I was a kid somewhat, but it never really made sense. Even as a little kid, it's like
they were trying to feature that patriotism then blindly.
It just wouldn't. I don't know. It was just too. It's like Austin turning heel, and all of a sudden Steve Austin is a pussy. Like, that part didn't quite work. He played a good heel at that time, but I'm like, why is he was Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's still the same guy. Why is he afraid of Kurt Angle?
But you know what? See, this is the time when the fans did the right thing and cheered him anyway, because the heel, it didn't make any sense. I'll give him that. That was the right call. They cheered Austin anyway.
Yeah. And they talk. I should call him Mark. Mark Capani talks about a young mom, like specifically like pulling her kid away when she saw him and Daivari walking on the street. There's an incident on an Australian tour where some young Middle Eastern people with rage approach Hassan and Daivari over their characters. One of them must have actually recognized that he was not of Arab descent. And Snitsky talks about that. He's like, they really thought they were going to have to fight. And I'm sure Snitsky being there, like, probably made it not escalate.
He's like, where's your pregnant girlfriends?
I just wanted that to all end with just like a destroyed bar, everybody on the ground, and then Snitsky walking out. It wasn't my fault. But yeah, now obviously the vets at the time did not like him for the massive push that he was getting so early again into his wrestling career. I mean, 2 years basically, and he's in the spot.
I just want to know, was Angle fucking with him? Did he know? Did he know that Eddie's dad invented the move?
It wasn't Kurt Angle, wasn't it?
Kurt Angle was like the one who told you should go say something to.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he was the one who said it.
My theory in this particular case wasn't. I don't think that they were trying to get him like fucked up or anything. Like, I think it was meant to be funny. And yeah, he goes up to Eddie Guerrero and talks to him about using the camel clutch. And it's like, what was his grandfather? I can't remember. Invented the move. And he said immediately, he was just like, oh, fuck. He ends up in wrestler's court. And a lot of times I do think that was more tongue in cheek than people realize. Like, I don't think it was always necessarily hazing so much as like,
unless the Miz was involved.
I think definitely JBL and some people like that went a lot harder. But they made him buy over $1,000 in booze and just poured it out.
That's the worst part, that they're pouring it out. I felt it.
Yeah. But apparently Eddie Guerrero was cool, hugged him, said he knows you didn't mean it. Like, I actually thought that was a mostly funny.
I'm just curious if Angle knew what he was doing.
Oh yeah, he did.
But see, Angle wasn't a student of the business, though. He may not have known his dad invented that move. That's the other thing. It's not like, it's not like, I don't know, Hardcore Holly did it. Like,
but I think he obviously knew enough at that point that, like, sending him to Eddie, who obviously Kurt Angle probably liked and respected.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew.
Yeah, he probably did it because he knows the reaction, but I don't know if he knew it went that deep. Like, if so, that's the cherry on top of the.
He would know the locker room at the time would not be happy. I'll put it that way. So they talk about the Hulk Hogan WrestleMania 21 segment. Them really at this point amping up the character, which again, like some of the stuff that they show, it's like, ooh, wow, I forgot it got like Austin wiping his nose on his his gear. I thought that was like, oh man, I forgot that was definitely not happening now. And I knew it was over at this point. For all the complaining when they had the masked henchmen come out.
Yeah, this is getting a little too.
Yeah, I was like, ooh.
Yeah, all the throat slit, the.
Yeah,
I stopped it.
Yeah, that was. I was like, ooh, this is. They're probably gonna get. He's gonna get shit canned now. And that was when they were planning to have him win that title from Batista, which I do think would have been great. But we have the London bombings at the time, and that kind of just killed.
They should have scrapped
everything.
this segment.
Yeah, it
They-
was too close. And when they had them lay out Undertaker, because it was like the exact some of these videos that were out at the time with the journalists and everything, it was also 5 masked men. Like, it was the exact number, and this is the Daniel Pearl era where UPN at this point is just fucking pissed. And he knew it was over when he goes to Johnny Ace, because he's starting to hear these rumblings. Like, man, I'm about to put an offer on a house. Like, should I do it? And then Johnny Ace like, don't buy the house, and just walked away. So
I've actually heard that story before too.
Yeah,
I've heard this that one before. That was when I was like,
yeah, that was rough. He knew he was done going into Great American Bash, and he's talked about that in some shoot interviews where, like, he was pretty much like, yeah. And Undertaker basically takes out the character, never to be seen again. But this is where this episode does have a bright side. He had a few years of post WWE depression. I think at one point in some of the shoot interviews that he's done in recent years, he talks like the character was just so hot and so specific that it would have been hard to come back as something else.
yeah.
It just like, what do you do? Haha, it was all for the lulz kind of thing. Marco Pani.
Honestly, I'm surprised someone didn't grab him and have him do a heated promo. I was made to do this stupid stuff. They could have. I think they could have done something and at least done something with him if they had wanted to. But
I don't know. I want to say not in this episode. I want to say he at least had a conversation in passing with TNA, but I'd have to go back and check. But I think, again, like, they're probably thinking like, well, we'd ideally like to bring you in as that same kind of gimmick, because that obviously was working. He was just kind of fucked. I mean, I guess he could have tried to grind it out on the indies, but I mean, what was this, 04, 05? We're just getting to a point where people are caring about the indies. Post WCW is kind of where people really started to really look at the indies. And I don't know that there was really that spot for him at the time. Like, if you couldn't go to Japan, like, he would have been taking a lot less money in TNA at that moment. And he did come back for at least 1 or 2 matches on the indies. Not, I don't think, trying to make it, but like in the last, like, probably 6 or 7 years, I think there might have been 1 or 2, and there's footage of it on YouTube if you want to see it. But basically, he got his master's degree. He became a teacher, then a principal. Still buddies with Daivari, who I knew obviously wasn't going to be on the episode, but is represented in old shoot footage.
yeah,
And this one ends nice. He fizzled out quick, but what a fucking year. Not even a full year. Like, go back and watch his run, because you can pretty much just watch it all. It won't take you very long. And
I don't know if you can watch it all. I don't know how much is missing.
That is interesting.
I can almost guarantee you that last angle that got him pulled from UPN isn't there.
Yeah, and I'd hate to see that lost to time, because I still think it's such a compelling timepiece.
I could be wrong. I don't know which episodes are there or not. And then if you're international of Netflix, good luck. I don't know what their collection is so light. Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically all there is to say about it. It's too bad. But who knows? Like, you know what? Maybe he continued. He never got anywhere close to that and just became bitter and broken down. And so I think he probably knew when to get out. And I'm happy he at least got to come back for an indie match or two just to, maybe properly say goodbye. But yeah. Good episode. So we'll move in now. We do
And that was our season finale. That's it for this year.
What do you want to see next year? I guess I should ask that. Like, do you think?
I don't know at the moment. I haven't really thought about it.
Do you think maybe? I mean, the Vince one is tough because it's like, will we even have a resolution?
It's too soon, and you had the Netflix thing. I think it until there's a resolution, I wouldn't even bother with the Vince one. Now, unless you want to hit like a specific Vince incident, I think we need to do some more incidents, like plane ride from hell and stuff like that.
Plane ride from hell would be good. Well, they did plane ride from hell, didn't they? Or they just talked about it. No, there wasn't.
No, there was. I'm just saying stuff like that.
Yeah. Some incidents. I mean, again, like go a little more obscure because I like those episodes. Maybe it's a territory. Sid in the screen. Yeah. You know what? I wonder if we could just do Sid. You got the Arn Anderson thing. You've got but I don't know. It's not quite Dark Side.
That's what I'm saying. That's like a Tales from the Territory, but they've been doing stuff like that anyway. So if they want to do a Sid Vicious and talk about the dark stuff in his career, I mean, but
he was never though like a drug guy, particularly. He had a normal family life. Like it's not. I don't know if it's dark enough.
Vampiro, Sean Waltman, X-Pac's a good one. They've never actually done China, but they did do that one Vice special that wasn't part of the series.
They didn't have a separate episode?
No, there's never been a China Dark Side. There's a China Vice special that basically is a Dark Side, but it's not.
Yeah. Do you think
it might even be from the same team?
You're going to be covering the same ground?
It would be, but that's
yeah.
Doesn't mean they won't. But yeah, Sean Waltman's a good one, I think. And at least with him, he has a happy out at the end.
Yeah, he's been doing great. Sometimes you really just have to know, like, all right, it's time to hang him up. And a lot
have we had a Scott Hall one?
Wow.
I don't think we have. I know we've had Jake, but I mean,
yeah, you could. I think the problem with Hall, though, like, I don't think Nash is going to do the episode.
Probably not Sean either.
Yeah, well, definitely not him. And yeah, I mean, he could have his son. They might do that, honestly, because other than just the basics of it, which Nash has talked about, like, it was lockdown that got him. That derailed him. JG, did they ever do anything on the Brit wrestling boom and bust, Big Daddy? Well, not on Dark Side of the Ring, no. So that is a possibility as well.
I'd like another.
I'm at a point now where it's like certain shoot things run together. Like, I don't think they've done Regal.
No, but is he? But
Regal definitely has a dark side. I mean, it fits.
Yeah.
I mean, he even said he doesn't even remember massive chunks of his career where he was so fucked up. Like he kind of sleepwalking through it. So Regal,
yeah, but if you do that on just like the people who are drugged out in the 90s, that's everyone on the fucking roster. You can do a Shawn Michaels one if you want to do it that way. That's kind of a neat. There needs to be something a little bit more to it than that, I think.
Do you think Shawn Michaels, just in general, about what an asshole he was, and
no, because but then you can see that's going to. Then you can do Hogan. You can do all. Being an asshole isn't big enough. There needs, like, he does have the drug addiction stuff, but here's the thing: I don't think they're going to go after guys like that because they still want to get talent on their show, and you don't want to go after Triple H's boy. Well, yeah.
Well, like you said, you noticed Davari who was not on the
well,
episode,
no, I mean,
I don't think
none of the guys who work for WWE are. Davari still works for WWE, correct?
Yes, he's an agent. You see him.
So
in the pull aparts all the time.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Antonio Pena. Yeah, there's other stuff there with him too. So, yeah. No, there's still a lot that they can do. I know
Alberto
it's
Del Rio, Page.
Del Rio. Oh God, you could do a whole thing on the Del Rio Page saga.
Yeah, just that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually Del Rio Page I would book right now. I think
But then I think that's, you got to be careful with all the abuse stuff on there.
Well,
It's
you
like,
have to say that he didn't get convicted of anything. I mean,
yeah, that seems liable. I get, some stuff's gonna be hard because
it's just how you tell it. I mean, you have to be careful that nothing was, as far as I'm concerned with him.
That's the problem. Everything, like, he's not convicted of anything. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah.
Because then it's like,
you
then
can
it comes off
acknowledge
like
that there were allegations. I mean,
yeah, but if you're doing a whole episode about the dark side of the relationship and all that other stuff is basically all hearsay, it's hard to, I think, to do it.
Conrad Thompson perhaps will happen one day.
He's not important enough to get a dark side.
There's not really a dark side, but I don't know. Maybe he'll flip out at some point. Who knows? But all right, let's get into something that I think a lot of people may not know about and might want to check out. And that is our documentary feature for the evening, Stabbed in the Face, The Rise and Fall of the World's Most Violent Band, which focuses on Eat the Turnbuckle, which was Shlak's band. Well, we know a lot about Shlak here. I mean, Kruger had that epic match with him back in the day, kind of put them both on the map, and definitely want to see those two work again. I've been dying to see another Kruger Shlak match.
Double champion in XPW.
Double champion in XPW. One of the more famous death match guys going today.
Probably one of probably the most popular deathmatch guy to get today. I mean, he's literally a walking billboard for deathmatch. I mean,
yeah, except again, we've said it before, like there's some great deathmatch fans, but there's
don't turn it into this, Dan. Don't go on your little rant.
I'm not going into a rant, but like, yeah, there are some that don't like him for goofy reasons. Let's just say
there's even them now have come around. Now they're all just focused on Necro.
Oh, okay. Yeah, as Necro, but I don't pay attention to those groups. Necro, I guess, is public enemy number one at this point.
No,
I love Necro.
That's why I say just leave it alone, Dan. Because then I have to explain stuff to you. So how can I watch this doc is JG's question. You could rent it on Amazon Prime, buy it on Amazon Prime. I believe it's other places as well, but that's where we checked it out. It was on Prime.
Yes.
It's only like $2.99 to rent it in HD. Definitely worth it.
Now, it's not a wrestling doc per se, but it's a music doc. Eat the Turnbuckle is Shlak.
But they were wrestling music. It's a hybrid.
Yeah, it's weird.
If you know about them, and that's what the doc is, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, they were I guess thrash metal is how they describe it. I'm not good at pinpointing these genres, but thrash metal. It's an ultra violent rock and roll wrestling band with shades of G.G. Allen. Their words, not mine. And yeah, it's. I didn't know a lot of this. I knew Shlak was involved in the music industry to a degree, but I mostly just know him from the wrestling stuff. I didn't realize it watching this, but Extreme Rising in 2012, and I think they got booed, which they talk about in the doc. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I saw Extreme Rising, so I have.
It was the second one, not the first one.
Yeah, I was trying to remember which one, but yeah. And yeah, they were the pre-show band, which we were talking about earlier. Not usually a good idea. It just doesn't always translate. There's footage out there, I believe it was UPW, where China is just Joni Lauer comes out and tries to do music during like a wrestling show, and it's like people were just booing the shit out of it. So doesn't always translate. You don't know if that's going to be the taste of the fans that are there. But this is kind of like the rise and fall of this band, which they did some crazy shit, and I didn't realize that they toured the world. There's footage of Shlak and his bandmates like on a beach in Spain. Like they really got to go everywhere, and even Wacken Festival, which music's not my strong suit, but I know Wacken. Like that was like
Yeah, you do.
But I know Wacken, not both kinds. Actually, I'm a skilled vet in both, but they had like over 80,000 people there. They did the Gwar BQ, and really were
with no one there.
they were catching fire like this, and I had a lot of fun watching it. Again, obviously I can't speak to a lot of the name drops on the bands, but you can see the comparisons to Gwar and Gigi Allen and some of the Gwar guys, I believe, appear and talk in the doc. But it's a pretty wild story. I mean, they talk about like an incident in Tijuana where a guy gets a beer stein, which this heavy beer stein, smashed over his head and just bleeding all over everybody. There was an incident where a girl got cut up pretty bad at one of the shows, and just seeing the footage, it's like, holy shit. like a fan like rushing the stage and getting like just mule kicked into oblivion. Like this was kind of cool. Not my genre per se, and I don't think yours either, but I had fun watching this. I thought it was a good time.
like I said to Dan, you don't have to be a music fan really, or even a fan of their music.
Mm-hmm.
It plays like Shlak's origin story. It's still deathmatch wrestling related, and you get how he is, how he came to be and stuff. He was always a fan of the wrestling and the deathmatch stuff, and it just worked. And when he got serious about the wrestling, I mean, look at him now. I mean, he's great. Personality, work.
I think more than what he does in the ring, obviously, insane. But what really works about Shlak is he's a great character. He's compelling.
Mm-hmm.
He's the type of person that you see on your TV, much like Kruger, and you're thinking like, whoa, who the hell is that? Like, even a kid just looking like they draw you to them, and not everybody has that.
And I'll tell you something. This is Ozzy, or Ozzy V from the channel.
Yeah.
Super old school wrestling, right? Even Ozzy is like, Shlak is a person you can build a promotion around.
Yeah.
Like even Ozzy gets it. Like, and
he's not a big deathmatch guy.
No, at all. He's not a deathmatch guy at all. So
there is something special there. You get to see old footage of Necro Butcher at some of the Eat the Turnbuckle shows. I actually really enjoyed the doc, even being somebody that, aside from the wrestling side of it, the music is kind of what it is. When I was making movies, I was dealing with people who thought like, let's blare this over like every action scene, and it's like it doesn't work. You have to have a score. You can't just do that through the whole movie. But I had fun. I think it's worth going out of your way to see. And you said Amazon right now?
Yeah, I know you can get it on Amazon, rented it for like $2.99. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. Yeah, if you're a deathmatch wrestling fan and you haven't seen it, I'm sure you all already know about it, but definitely check it out. And it's just recently been available for rental this past month. Definitely, now that it's easily accessible, check it out.
Yeah, give it a watch. Highly recommended. So I should let you guys know we're going to be live in about 15, 20 minutes or so
15.
For Flesh Wound Horror Live. So don't miss that. It will obviously not be at this link. So go on over. We're going to be talking the Blair Witch franchise with our special guest, Chris McGibbon. So I know we'll be going deep.
So if we're late, that's on him.
If we're late, it's on him. But plan is to start in about 15 minutes. That's why I said 15 or 20. I was giving us.
Well, don't make him show up late. 15 minutes. Our plan is 6:30.
So on that note, we will let you guys go. Remember, patreon.com/fleshwoundfeatures. It all starts at just $1. And we don't do super chats, so we appreciate your support. And yeah, we get very candid and uncensored on there. So go check that out. Also, be sure to tune in this upcoming week where we'll have reviews for The Ritual, Dangerous Animals. We got a lot of stuff coming your way, so check that out. And on that note,
don't forget, Dan, tomorrow you can promote tomorrow.
Tomorrow, Jeff Fahey, our Jeff Fahey special.
Go, you can say it, Dan.
Gahey for Fahey. We're getting
all month.
All month, Gahey for Fahey. And we're gonna kick that off tomorrow. So check that out, and we'll see you over on Flesh Wound Horror Live. See you in a bit.
Money's on the dresser.